Ginny and Georgia can be painstakingly bad sometimes. I mean, painstakingly bad. But I want to make the case for why the good is 100% worth getting through the bad for. Hi, my name is Carrie, and if you stumbled across this video, you probably watch a lot of TV, and you're looking for a place where people do deep dives on shows you either love or love to hate. And that's basically what I'm trying to build here. So welcome. Now, I don't know if it was just me, but when I was watching the first episode of season 3 of Ginny and Georgia, I was like, oh no, here we go. This is the demise of Ginny and Georgia. It's going downhill from here. Because I can't quite pinpoint it, but something about the episode 1 was so cringe to me. Of course, we can talk about the obvious elephant in the room, which generated memes all across the internet, which is Austen's growth spurt, which honestly I don't think on its own is so bad. What makes it jarring is the fact that season 3 picks up exactly where we left off from season 2, right? Like season 2 ends with her getting arrested at her wedding. Season 3 picks up right from there, which I think was a choice given the fact that you have a 14-year-old boy who clearly is growing, and all of a sudden, although it's the same night and the next day, Austen's now significantly taller than his older sister. Now, I think the awkwardness of this all was like 50% avoidable, because can you avoid the fact that a 14-year-old boy is growing and so he's going to look much older in the face if you have a 2.5-year gap from seasons? No, you can't avoid that. However, I think it was really awkward that they kept trying to convince us that this boy is in elementary school. I feel like they should have just made him older in this season. Yes, he was in elementary school last season. No one's really caring about those details. But now, as we move the story forward, he's in middle school. So that way, we didn't have to awkwardly see him getting out of these like elementary school colorful classrooms when the boy is clearly a teenager. But also what made it weird is, again, the height differential. And I feel like this could have been such an easy fix, right? Like, camera angles, why they kept having him stand next to Ginny when he was clearly taller than her was awkward. If you're going to have them stand next to each other, which I think they probably could have avoided, but if you're going to have them stand right next to each other, put her on a platform, elevate her, and don't show their feet. Right? Like, this seems like a very easy fix, but that's just my opinion. I don't know. But that wasn't the only like cringe moment of the first episode. There were other like small moments that I felt like just came out of, again, camera angles or director decisions where I'm like, I think we could have did this differently. Like one small example is Marcus and Ginny. They're smoking in the playground or whatever. And there's this moment where the camera like tilts. And it's very subtle, but it's noticeable. And you're like, why? And then there was all these flashbacks, which there's always flashbacks in Ginny and Georgia. But I think having it happen so often in the first episode, when it's also paired with Austen being so much taller, and the fact that the flashbacks are comprised of different actors for the kids, like totally different characters where they look totally different. It was too much happening in the first episode. And then you had that one flashback where Georgia is like stealing from that diner and it was not stealth or smooth at all. So you're just like, why are we doing this? This is just awkward and it just doesn't feel necessary. So yeah, I was not a fan of that first episode. I really thought that that was the beginning of the end of Ginny and Georgia. But because of how much I loved and how enthralled I was in the first 2 seasons, I'm like, I'm not going to stop watching after 1 episode. That wouldn't make sense. So I kept watching, and luckily episode 2, way less cringe. Thank goodness. And then I'm sure you all agree, like the episodes just kept getting better and better and better. And I was like, okay, all right, we're back to our Ginny and Georgia. But when I talk about the sins of Ginny and Georgia being forgiven, I'm not talking about like the awkward camera movements or Austen inexplicably growing so much taller. I'm talking about the true toxicity that is Georgia. And no, to be clear, this is not a video where I'm trying to justify her behavior, okay? Let me repeat that. The woman is a serial murderer, a serial killer. So I'm not about to sit here and justify her actions because that would be crazy. Rather, what I'm trying to say is that the show is so dynamic and the characters developed around Ginny and Georgia are so beautiful and realistic that it almost feels like we can ignore the fact that Georgia is a serial killer because that's almost not even what the show is about. I mean, of course that is what the show is about, but unlike the show You, for example, which predominantly focuses on the perspective of the serial killer himself, right? Unlike You, Ginny and Georgia focuses largely on the people around them and shows that the victims of these violent people are not just those who have been unalived, but the people who surround these violent people are also victims in their own right. And so when I think of it that way, it kind of actually reminds me of that British show Adolescence more than it does You, because similar themes there, right? Like the show largely followed around the family who was left and impacted by this kid who goes out and kills someone. And so it feels more like that than it does you. Like Ginny and Georgia focuses on friendship, it focuses on mother-daughter dynamics, it focuses on blended families, it focuses on mental health, and not the mental health of the serial killer, but the mental health of other people around them. And so like Marcus, for example, Marcus is begging for space from Ginny because he knows that he needs to focus on his mental health. And you almost get frustrated with her because you want her to respect his wishes because he's clearly trying to do better for himself. But at the same time, there's that nuance of she's going through a lot, and also she's just a child herself. So she doesn't actually know how to support someone who's going through a mental health crisis. I mean, most of us don't, right? Like most of us grown adults would not know how to handle that if it were ourselves or if we were trying to support the people we loved as they're going through a mental health crisis. So it's totally reasonable that she feels like she can just love him through it, and she feels that she can help him through that. But in reality, we know as viewers that she doesn't have the tools. And she's a child. She don't know what she's doing. And that just feels so incredibly realistic to me. And then speaking of Marcus, let us just say that I hate me line in episode 10, chills. It was so good. It was so good. And actually to that point, what we really need to say and acknowledge is that Marcus and Austin ate this season up. Their performances were so good. So say what you want about Austin's little growth spurt, but that Diesel de la Torca or whatever his name is, yeah, he can put on a show. And again, with Austin, we have so much nuance, the duality of him wanting to protect his mother while also knowing at a very young age, because we know innately that his mother is dead wrong. What his mother is doing is absolutely not okay, and he knows that, but he still wants to protect her. And I feel like a lot of people can relate to that, right? Like whether it be our moms or fathers, not to say that they're serial killers, but you want to protect your loved ones even when you know that they're doing the wrong thing, right? Especially if you're children and you can't like conceptualize or explain and compartmentalize. So yeah, Austin's character is so interesting. And then of course, Ginny has her own duality with that as well. Like when she mentions that she secretly wishes that people knew about her mom so that way she didn't have to carry that burden herself. Oh, that was deep. Was it not? I was like, yeah, that makes sense. And you know, people complain so much about Ginny's character, but I'm like, what are y'all expecting from this girl? She is a teenager going through hormones and all that stuff. She has had no stability her entire life, and her mother is a narcissistic serial killer. Okay? I just don't know what y'all are expecting from her. In fact, her getting herself knocked up was one of the most realistic scenarios because, yeah, in real life, I feel like her not escaping teen pregnancy would be a likely outcome of her circumstances. I'm just saying. So I feel like the people who critique Ginny so much are to me just a little bit too critical because I don't know what you're supposed to expect from the girl. Okay, she's a brat, yet sometimes yes, but given her circumstances, okay, give that girl some grace. Now, what I don't think is a realistic scenario in all of this is having her ex-boyfriend show up to support her as she's going to the clinic or, you know, leaving the clinic, because one, I don't know any teenage boy that would be that mature to go with your ex to the clinic to handle a situation that you didn't cause. Yeah, no, I don't know any teenage boy who would be that mature. And then for her to have been happy to see him, I feel like it's totally unrealistic because that means your mom told your business. And now you here with the ex-boyfriend who you love deeply, who's not the one who knocked you up, and he's here at the clinic to support you. Like, I feel like that would not go well in real life, but you know, whatever we need to advance the plot, I suppose. So yeah, we can also just ignore that little situation. But the point that I'm making is that these characters are so interesting and so dynamic. And two other characters that are worth noting are Abby and Maxine. Abby is the perfect Lost Girl character. Like, again, so realistic, so relatable. Her parents have just gone through a divorce. Her mom is struggling with alcoholism, so barely parenting her. She is hooking up with a guy she doesn't like. She makes out with a girl she clearly does not like. Like, she's just lost in the sauce. But I do feel like them exploring her sexuality, I would be very curious to know what different folks from the LGBTQIA community think, because as I'm watching it as a viewer, before they introduced the character who she's now romantically interested in, before they introduced her, the vibe that they were giving Abby was just like, She's lost and she will take attention from anyone who gives it to her, right? Again, making out with people she doesn't like, hooking up with people she doesn't like. She's just seeking and desperate for attention because she's not getting it at home. And so I feel like then connecting that storyline to her exploring her sexuality kind of feeds into the narrative to me that people from the community, the LGBTQIA community, are either just lost or seeking attention or mentally unwell. Like that's what that pairing does to me or set signals to me. And so I'm not a huge fan of the direction that they're going in because I feel like it's feeding that narrative, which I don't think is a narrative that needs feeding. But I could be dragging it. Y'all tell me if y'all think I'm looking too deep into it, but I wish that they would have explored her sexuality in a different way without it being so connected to what she's experiencing. But I don't know if that makes sense. Tell me what you think. And then we have our poor girl Maxine. I'm conflicted when it comes to Maxine, okay? Because I've had friends like Maxine, right? Like they truly love their friends. They truly do. They have so many big feelings though. So many big feelings. And at the end of the day, these are all teenagers who are going through their own stuff, and not even just normal teenager stuff. Like they're going through, like, homegirls mama's in jail, like they're going through some serious stuff in their own right, and she just wants to love them through that. She just wants to be there for them. But it is hard as people are trying to navigate their own feelings. It's hard to also have to manage hers, right? Because again, she has a lot, they're big feelings, and it's going to be hard for those people to manage her feelings as well. That's a lot of responsibility and a lot of work to put on a teenager. So I get why they feel burdened by the amount of love that she's pouring into them. But at the same time, the other side of the same token, I'm like, Maxine deserves better than all y'all. She needs to stop being all y'all's friends because she just deserves so much better than all of you. And I just hate that they're treating her like she's too much, right? It just hurts me to imagine someone being treated as though they're too much when they're really just trying to love on you. So I'm conflicted. But again, this nuance is so interesting to me. And I think where I walk away with this is I walk away thinking it's no one's fault, which is real life. It's real problems that I've had in my own friendships where it's no one's fault, right? Like, I think that Maxine deserves to be around people who can pour into her the way she pours into other people. If this were real life, I would say, hopefully as she gets older, she finds those people. But at the same time, I think her friends are very much capable of being good friends, just not to her and not to her in this season, because they have their own stuff going on and it's a lot. And it's just like, so yeah, I think that's where I walk away with that situation. But the point being, dynamic, nuanced, layers. There's just so many prompts for good discussion here, and I just love what all the characters are bringing. Like, Georgia to me is the least interesting character in this show. I could talk about so many other characters. I could talk about her husband, Paul, is that his name? I could talk about Joe, the coffee shop owner. Like, there's just so much dynamicism in all of these characters. And so I'm grateful because I started this season thinking this is the beginning of the end. This is the end of Ginny and Georgia. And I ended this season feeling like that was incredible. That was incredible and I loved it. So I'm curious to know what you all think.